You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Our next conversation is one that is stirring serious questions about electoral integrity and executive power in Nigeria. The alleged directive from President Bola Tinubu asking the INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, to proceed on terminal leave has thrown the political space into a whirlwind of speculations. No official statement from the presidency, no confirmation yet from INEC. Just a trail of cancelled meetings, constitutional debate, and whispers of political maneuvering.
Now let's break down the legal framework. Section 154, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides for the appointment of INEC Chairman, that is by the President, subject to the Senate's confirmation. Section 155, subsection 1, removal can be done by the President, but requires the support of 2/3 majority of the Senate. So, can a president simply ask the INEC chairman to go on leave? Or is this a soft removal dressed as a procedural formality? Joining us to speak to this and react to these developments is elections and development specialist, Mr. Paul James. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Paul James.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
All right. So first of all, is there cause for worry? The INEC chairman's tenure is meant to end at the end of the year, December 2025. And the question is, why is he then made to go on leave? Is this a cause for worry, or is it really much ado about nothing?
No, I don't think there is any cause for worry here. I think this has been standard operating procedure in most government establishments, that as a tenure ends, usually government appointees go on what we call terminal leave. Most times they go 3 months to the end of their tenure. And just to put on record that the current INEC Chair, Mahmood, had also been mentioning this in almost all of the meetings that I have attended that had been organized with election stakeholders, just to draw attention to the fact that we needed to pay attention to the appointment that will be made into INEC. So for me, the worry will be how purveyors of fake news, or if you like, misinformation, are twisting this. It is constitutional, like we know, Section 154, that the President appoints INEC Chairman with the confirmation of the Senate. And Section 157 also makes it clear that the President cannot arbitrarily remove INEC Chairman without also 2/3 confirmation from the Senate. So I think that settles the case. For me, I would rather we pay attention to the kind of appointment that will happen into INEC. We were in similar scenario, if you recall, in 2016, 2017. That was the end of Jega's tenure, when there was an interim appointment of Hajia Zakari, and the kind of issues that generated. A lot of people went to town saying, oh, she was related to President Bola and the likes of that. We should rather be focusing on who is appointed, because we want to see an INEC chairman that is untainted, that is unblemished, if we like, especially with any kind of political coloration. You want to see an INEC chairman that has the competence, the capacity to lead the commission. And for me, that is the way we could turn around this conversation around integrity, around confidence building, especially in the commission. So I would rather in the next 2 months for Nigerians to pay attention to who becomes INEC chairman, or for Nigerians to begin to prioritize the kind of persons or characters that they want to see take up the saddle of responsibility to chair the commission for the next 5 years. Let's not forget that this is the second tenure for Professor Mahmood, and constitutionally we know they can't go beyond 2 tenures. Perhaps this is also why the commission, or if you like, if we just think it is just normal that at this point in time, leading to the end of tenure, that the commission chair will take the terminal leave.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul James, for clearing the air on that and giving us the constitutional reference towards to the appointment of the INEC chairman. Now, you said what Nigerians should focus on is the integrity and the person that will be appointed as the next chair of INEC. There's been calls for INEC reforms, and one of the key issues from these people that have been calling for reforms is the fact that Mr. President is the one who appoints the chairman of INEC. So regardless of if you appoint a saint or a sinner, that the fact that the president is the one making the appointment does not really augur well for democracy. They say there are issues of accountability and transparency because he who plays the piper dictates the tune. So what do you make of this? And I don't think that constitutional amendment is going to happen in the next 2 months or whenever this appointment will be made for a new INEC chairman.
Of course, I couldn't agree more with you that whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. And this has been something that Nigerians have been clamoring for over 20 years. If you recall, the late President Yaradua also raised that concern after his election. He even questioned the process that led to his election. And one of that led to the appointment of the Justice Waste Committee that came up with the recommendation that perhaps we could shift the burden of appointing INEC Chairman to the Judicial Service Commission. But again, Nigerians have also raised eyebrows to that maybe you may need an independent commission or independent body to deal with that issues. We could take a lead from what is happening even in neighboring Ghana. I think Cape Verde also have a similar arrangement, not sure of South Africa, where you got independent bodies that do the nomination and then the National Assembly confirms, of course, with also the endorsement of the president. That may take a long process to achieve now, given that we are just at the end of the tenure of the current INEC chairman, but perhaps it should also be an issue of the front burner for constitutional amendment discourse. Nigerians have suffered a lot, especially with issues of confidence in the Election Commission. And if there is one way to turn that tide for me is in the appointments, not just only the chair of INEC, but even in the resident electoral commissioners. We saw, how people protested some of the appointment that happened just before the 2023 election. If you recall the appointment for the INEC chairman in Sokoto, the people of Sokoto rejected that appointment. And then also, I think, appointment in Anambra State. If I recall even what happened in Adamawa State during the 2023 election, the character of the person that managed the election that wanted to take over the role of the returning officer. These are not the kind of persons you want to be seeing in an electoral democracy, and that is why we said there is need to pay attention to the kind of appointment that will happen into INEC. If Mahmood's tenure is ending in the next 2 months, I think by the end of November, you want to see by now that at least if the president still have the prerogative of making the appointment, that at least some names are put forward to avoid also all the speculation that is happening in the space. You want to see that these names are scrutinized by Nigerians before the names are even forwarded to the National Assembly. We don't want to have a case of take a bow and leave, but rather we want to see the pedigree of the person that will be appointed, especially in relations to their involvement even in the electoral space. To what level do they even understand the election ecosystem and how they can manage elections effectively? I think it's critically important. It is also important that this appointment is done early because we have another elections coming in the next 2 months. Perhaps the person can also oversee the election or understudy other commission national commissioners as they manage the election, so that from there on the person can take on learning through the process and preparing for the 2027 election. So importantly, I would say early appointment is critical at this point in time. We may not go back to begin to change the constitution, but we can take it up from here that once this appointment had happened, within the next 5 years, Nigeria must go the route of making constitutional appointment to ensure that we don't continue to leave this at the doorstep of the president.
Now, just to follow up to the question on appointment, we've seen oftentimes things are either zoned or politicized in Nigeria, and the last 2 INEC chairmen have come from the north. Does it matter where this appointment comes from, and is there any arrangement on zoning with regards to the appointment of INEC chairman?
Well, if you want to go that route, also people who may want to ask, how about the other INEC chairman before that? If you also think that since the commission started, we had more appointment in the south actually than we had from the north. But I would not be more bothered about where the election chairman will be coming from, but rather, like I will keep saying, what level of understanding do they have even about the elections commission? we saw some recent appointment that had happened within the commission that we thought is actually a best fit. For instance, if you recall the appointment of the Resident Electoral Commission that happened in Ondo, she used to be INEC legal officer that works in the commission headquarters that was now appointed. I think even the Wahab, that is Nasarawa State, I guess now, Wahab also used to be a staff of the commission. So you want to see that an appointment, this is also how you can encourage the staff of the commission to know that there will be hope that one day they could lead the commission, and perhaps maybe to help some of them to even take their job seriously. There are persons within INEC or persons that have served also under INEC that would think can do better if given the opportunity. There are national commissioners that we have interacted with, and with the level of competence and how they had managed some of the electoral processes, we think they can do better. So maybe the president need to look within, and then of course, if all of these are bound by within the premise of what the Constitution allowed, maybe I think we could start from there. So that's for us what is more important, not necessarily where the person is coming from, but to what level does the person understand the process, and to what level also will the person stay non-partisan throughout their tenure as the chair of the commission.
I want to go back to the initial question I'd asked you about if there's any cause for alarm, because you had said that this is normal procedure, that there's really no cause for alarm. However, this has happened few months to the end of his tenure. There were cancellation of meetings. His final consultative meetings with the political parties had to be cancelled abruptly. A number of meetings had to be cancelled. There have been a lot of rumors flying, speculations as to there being trouble in paradise between the INEC chairman and the current administration. If, when the INEC chairman was fully in office, there were still issues with how INEC carried out its duties and its responsibilities, shouldn't we say that there really might be fire on the mountain, especially because we have proceedings that might be interrupted as a result of this change? A number of elections is around the corner. So what do we make of this? Can we really say there isn't any fire behind the scenes?
First, I don't speak for INEC, but to be very clear that the consultative meeting is an arrangement with from INEC with stakeholders, where every quarter INEC will meet with stakeholders to provide updates on what it is planning for the election. Quarterly meeting, not monthly meeting, and now we are in the third quarter. So this meeting could happen any moment within the quarter. That's my understanding. Secondly, also, the commission may have been occupied with other issues. We also received the same invitation as the political parties. To also be clear, it's not only the political parties that are invited, and they usually set aside a week in a quarter where they interact with security officials, political parties, election observers, and the media. If that is not happening, perhaps there could be some reasons from the commission that you expect the commission to provide clarity on. But beyond that also is a point that for INEC's chair to go on terminal leave, we know this is statutory. This is almost like what happened in every agency. And I don't know why now we want to begin to spotlight INEC or what is happening there. Like I said, the focus should rather be on who becomes the next INEC chairman. Now, I mean, we had reasons in the past when Nigerians will have called for the head of the INEC chair. Why are we having this conversation now? I don't want us to I don't want us to belittle the conversation. I mean, for me, I know as big as Nigeria will be thinking about this, the conversation should be who becomes the next INEC chairman. This happened in 2026, where the INEC chair has to also go on terminal leave. And then after that, there was an interim appointment. So maybe if that is the approach that the government wants to take, I wouldn't know. But like I said, I think they can even start off these processes now before the end of the tenure. Finally, at the end of November, we should have a substantive INEC chairman that can just take over immediately. All
right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We continue to track developments with INEC and the potentially new INEC boss. I mean, for now, we do not know that he has officially ended his tenure. What we know is that it's a terminal leave, and we don't know if this will extend until the expiration of his tenure, but we'll continue to track updates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.